Greetings, gladiators. This is your teacher, Mrs. Binta Calhoun, with the Quarter 1, Week 8 Virtual Learning Instructional video for day number 2. This is Honors English 10, and this video is for October 22nd and 23rd, 2020. This week we will focus on the narrative common task. Today's task objectives are to plan and write the plot diagram of your narrative, plan and write the 6 elements of your narrative, and your mastery objective this week is that you are going to use precise words and phrases telling details and sensory language to convey a vivid picture of the experiences, events, setting, and or characters of a personal narrative. Review from last class. Last class, you were asked to select a personal narrative topic and submit it through assignments Quarter 1, Week 8 personal narrative topic selection. If you have not done that assignment, please begin class today by completing task number 1. The directions are: open the personal narrative topic selection assignment under Week 8, reread the list of topic prompts, type your narrative prompt, and provide a 1-sentence summary of the story you will tell. I will not approve personal narrative topics that do not consist of a 1-sentence summary about the story that you will tell. Once you have chosen a topic, here are your next steps. You will complete the plot diagram due Sunday, 10/25/2020. Then you'll complete the 6 elements of my narrative due also on 10/25/2020. And if you would like, you can begin the Week 9 personal narrative pre-write, but that will not be due until Wednesday, October 28th. So day number 2 for October 22nd and October 23rd, it is all about building a personal narrative with a plot diagram and the 6 elements of a narrative. The plot diagram. The plot diagram is an organizational tool that uses a pyramid or triangular shape to map out the events of a story. This mapping of plot structure allows writers to visualize the key features of their story. If you notice on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see a triangular diagram. This diagram represents the plot diagram and is often used to describe the events of a story. At the base of the triangle, you see the word exposition. Exposition deals with giving the reader or audience the key details about setting, characters, location, and important environmental factors that readers or audiences need to know in order to understand the context of your story. The rising action is where you build each part of your story by dividing them between events number 1, event number 2, and event number 3. Event number 1 is where you are going to open up the story and provide all the essential information about your goal, what you're looking to achieve, the problem you're facing, whatever it is about the story that we need to know, and the very first thing that happened that indicated to you that this would be a memorable experience. The second event is where intensity is increased. The antagonist should be introduced, whether it's a character, a personal problem, or an act of nature. We need to begin to learn what is going to try to keep you from achieving your goal, getting your desire met, or having your problem resolved. You must name your antagonist during the descriptions of event number 2. Event number 3 is where things are going to become a lot more suspenseful and intricate. This is where your antagonist is doing exactly what you don't want to happen, and that is getting in your way of achieving your goal. Then you will describe the conflict. The conflict is going to be between you and your antagonist. You must identify whether it's man versus self, man versus man, man versus nature, or man versus society, and provide some type of explanation of how or why that conflict exists. The climax is at the top of your triangle. The reason for this is because it's the highest point of tension. It is essentially the moment at which the protagonist and the antagonist face off head to head, and there's some type of battle. So if that battle is personal within you, then that's what your climax is. If the battle is with someone outside of you, then there's a description of that battle. When we use the word battle, we don't want to say that there has to be some type of gory, bloody fight. What we're talking about is the moment at which the antagonist gives their very best effort to prevent the protagonist from achieving their goal, and one of them will win. And that leads us to the outcome of the climax, which is also referred to as the resolution. What happens after you and your antagonist come head to head? Do you learn something? Do you achieve your goal? Do you lose? Does your antagonist win? And if so, all of those ideas considered, what are the sort of events that occur afterwards? Reasonable resolution usually includes two events that illustrate how the character has changed. And finally, the last part of your resolution is the development of your thematic statement. This is the theme of your story, the lesson that you learn, the idea that you want readers to walk away with after reading your personal story. So today you will be working on your plot diagram and the 6 elements of a narrative. And so I wanted to review how this plot diagram really serves as a storyboard as we prepare for the writing. To create the plot diagram, you're going to introduce the setting, tell us what, where, characters, what do the characters see, where are they? You will create the rising action, to increase the drama, expose the antagonist, expose the conflict. In the climax, you're going to illustrate how the main character faces the biggest problem and how the story changes and goes a different way. And finally, the resolution. The action slows down, the conflict is resolved. Now what will the characters do, and what did they learn? The 6 elements of a narrative. The 6 elements of a narrative are the essential parts of a good story. They make the story effective, satisfying, and memorable for an audience or reader. The 6 elements of a story, as we have been discussing over the past couple of weeks, are setting, plot, characters, conflict, atmosphere, and point of view. My task expectations for the 6 elements of my narrative is that you will brainstorm each of the 6 elements of your short story or personal narrative and try to recall as many details as possible. You will fill in the blank 6 elements of my narrative graphic organizer by going to Assignments, Quarter 1, Week 8, 6 elements of my narrative. You will use specific details and be descriptive as possible. For example, if I were going to write about an important life change or a moment that changed my life, I might write about the birth of my first child. The setting is Silver Spring, Maryland, in my apartment. It also is in Holy Cross Hospital. It's also at labor and delivery room, and it's also the maternity ward. If I were completing a 6 elements of a narrative graphic organizer, I would be responsible for describing each of these places as it would be relevant to my reader. Remember that you are required to use figurative language, so try to use similes, hyperboles, and metaphors to describe your settings. But notice how in my example, I give each of those settings. So just to recap what I've shared with you in this video, your assignments due for this week are that you should have selected and have approved a personal narrative topic. You'll need to complete the plot diagram and watch the plot diagram instructional video because that should be very helpful. That is going to be due on Sunday, 10/25. You want to complete the 6 elements of my narrative by Sunday, October 25th. And that task also has an instructional video right above it. Both of these tasks are in Kami and will require that you submit them through Kami. You may choose to work on Zoom with me to complete these tasks, or you may choose to work offline. I do want to take a moment to answer all of your questions in regards to this week's assignments and Amnesty Week and any other questions that you might have. So if at this time, I will now end the presentation and take your questions.